Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus, here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Monday the 1st of October 2018. Let's have a look at what's going on across over in Birmingham at the Conservative Party conference. This is what's dominating the political news to start the week and probably all the way up until probably Wednesday and indeed Thursday as well. First up, Tory leadership pitches. Now, one of the big themes of this conference is now Boris Johnson has started his kind of personal campaign for Brexit. This is what I would do in terms of Brexit. This is why perhaps I should be leader of the Conservative Party. He's brought into question Theresa May's leadership. He's set that challenge. And so what you're seeing now, as the reports indicate, is that a number of other ministers are tipping their hats and pitching themselves as a possible future leader. And that's pretty much reflected in all the headlines. Eyes are on currently Home Secretary Sajid Javid, Penny Mordaunt, Justine Greening as well. Those are the names being bandied around. But one in particular, as you can see in these headlines, is Jeremy Hunt, the new Foreign Secretary, who of course replaced Boris Johnson after he resigned earlier this year. He gave us a conference speech yesterday, which has been quite big on the headlines this morning, where he compared, quite a few sort of little zingers in here, compared the EU to the former Soviet Union, warning Brussels against locking Britain into an EU prison. I'll just give you some of the quotes coming through in the news lines today. The EU was set up to protect freedom. It was the Soviet Union that stopped people leaving. The lesson from history is clear. If you turn the EU club into a prison, the desire to get out won't diminish, it will grow, and we won't be the only prisoner that will want to escape. Now, pretty significant there. It's been picked up by a lot of news feeds, a lot of reaction as well from some ambassadors from EU countries in terms of whether it was right for a foreign secretary, the top diplomat of the UK government, to be putting any kind of comparison between the EU and indeed the Soviet Union. Went on as well in the Telegraph article today, as you can see, bad Brexit will stir Dunkirk spirit. Jeremy Hunt saying that the Dunkirk spirit could be brought up in the UK again if there's a bad deal offered to the EU and there's some kind of bad deal put forward. But also having a go at President Macron of France, saying if President Macron thinks we will come crawling back, desperate to rejoin the club in a few years' time, it is a profound misreading of our character. That's the reporting in the Telegraph. It goes on saying in his conference speech, and I'll get on to why this is so significant in a minute. If you put a country like Britain in a corner, we don't crumble, we fight. And it goes on to say punishing Britain for Brexit is dealing with the symptoms of the problem and not the cause, which is the failure of political elites across Europe to deal with people's concerns about migration. Now, why is this so important? It's because, well, it went down so well in the Conservative Party membership in the hall while he made that speech. Now, why would he be doing that? Why would the Foreign Secretary, one of the biggest people in government, be making such provocative speeches as the top diplomat of the UK? Well, some are seeing this, and the reports are coming through, that he might be pitching himself to the Conservative Party membership as a possible leader in waiting to replace Theresa May if, as many suspect, she will not be going on much longer, certainly won't be going on to fight the next general election. If you make such big noises, which you know are going to please a lot of your membership, your base supporters, who are obviously going to be essential for you becoming leader in the leadership of the Conservative Party, then the conference is the place to do that, and certainly your keynote speech as a minister is the place to do that as well. So definitely over the next few days, next few hours, keep an eye on what Jeremy Hunt is doing and the reports surrounding him. There's certainly a lot of different ideas about whether he's pitching himself for leader or not in today's stories. Next up, now, let's look at the main person who's creating all the headlines, and indeed most of the papers are actually covering him on their front pages, which is Boris Johnson, former Home Secretary, who's made an unapologetic put down of the Chequers plan that Theresa May is banking her leadership on, and also has come up with his own free trade deal approach to Brexit, which he's very much staking as this is what I would do if I was perhaps leader, or this is my vision of what my leadership would look like. Now, it's now turned into open season on Boris Johnson. This is the reports coming through in the papers, which really is showing the divisive nature of the former Foreign Secretary in the Conservative Party, particularly amongst MPs. The Sun's reporting that a group of anyone but Boris MPs plan to boo and heckle him at his big anti-Chequers, anti-Brexit deal Chequers rally tomorrow. But let's just have a look at what some key significant players in the Conservative Party have been saying over the past sort of 24 hours to do with Boris Johnson. Ruth Davison, leader of Scottish Conservatives, called for a period of silence relating to Boris Johnson. David Davis, former Brexit Secretary, saying that he's a great mate, but added quite a lot of his ideas are good headlines, not necessarily good policies. Sajid Javid, flight from Birmingham to Belfast delayed, wish there was a bridge, wait, ... That was a tweet he made. Many seeing that as a mockery or rather ridiculing of Boris Johnson's plan to build a bridge between Ireland and the UK post-Brexit. Greg Clark, business secretary, described Johnson's call to scrap HS2 as completely wrong, completely the wrong thing to do. And Lord Digby Jones saying the response to Boris Johnson's reported F-business quote, saying it showed him up for irrelevant and offensive person he really is. Even Philip Hammond, as you can see in the Mail on their front page, screaming headline there, I don't expect it to happen, Boris Johnson as PM, and that's obviously what the Daily Mail has led with. But, as you can see what I put there as well, look at the Conservative Home members' poll on who should be next leader replacing Theresa May. Boris Johnson is still leading. Sajid Javid is climbing the ranks and approaching him, but as you can see, Boris Johnson still is topped to be leader of the party if the membership had their say, or at least Conservative Home membership had their say as well. That's from out this morning, so that's right up to date as well. And that's the problem, is many MPs do not want Boris Johnson to become leader ever, but a lot of the membership, or at least the majority, in terms of, or rather the majority of members in terms of any voting, want him to be leader. So the dilemma here will be played out in party conference over the next few days. Really, really interesting stuff. Let's just have a look at a big policy announcement, though. Theresa May is putting forward today. This is her big one of the day. Restaurants will be banned from pinching tips off their waiting staff. Now, the Summons reporting this comes after the idea was first proposed in 2015 and has followed a 3-year battle led by Business Secretary Greg Clark, who you can see there. Other ministers, particularly led by the Treasury, the Summons reporting, opposed the plan and wanted restaurants to do these changes voluntarily rather than any kind of legislation or forcing it to happen. But Mr Clark has told The Sun, it's disgraceful that consumers who are giving tips for great service in good faith aren't guaranteed that it finds its way to hard-working staff. This is important because for Theresa May, it's more than just the domestic, than Brexit now. It's about the domestic agenda now. Off the back of the Labour Party conference, Jeremy Corbyn's big domestic policy speeches, a lot of pressures now on Theresa May to not just think about Brexit, which is of course the issue of the day, but to find big policy and bold policy visions for the domestic agenda as well. So to combat what many fear is a connection between Labour policies and a lot of voters across the UK. Many more policies perhaps to be announced, certainly by Theresa May in her Wednesday leader speech, but this is one that's come trickling through today. That's pretty much it for today. I'm up to conference later on this afternoon, up to Birmingham, so I'll be bringing you all the latest from there. Check out my Twitter feed, RJH if you want to find out more, and also talk to me about any of the stories we've covered this morning. That's pretty much it, though. We'll be back on Wednesday morning around about 9 o'clock. We might be a little bit later because we're heading back from Birmingham. But until then, have a fantastic rest of your day.